The Arizona Coyotes managed to beat someone, but it came at a cost. Let's go ahead and talk about that.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. I am your host, Robin Leonio, alongside Matthew Jacobson.
Howdy.
I want to thank you for making the show your first listen every day. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube and also ad-free on Amazon Music for those Amazon Prime subscribers. We got a good show on today's episode because the Arizona Coyotes got another win. They beat the Penguins. You did say came out of the loss. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, Matthew. But let's talk about the win to start off with. Coming off fresh. I think what's now 2 wins in a row after having beat both the Preds and the Penguins.
Yes, but I'm surprised you want to jump into the game first and not talk about the other news. All right, let's jump into the game with my patented goal scoring summary. This happens 2 minutes and 23 seconds into the first period. Jason Zucker, former Penn, scoring against his former team from Logan Cooley, a phenomenal little chip pass. And I mean that slightly sarcastically because it was he just kind of threw his hand at it. And you know what?
Right.
It was a phenomenal pass. Zucker's face was ridiculous on that. His 7th from Cooley and Brown. Good to see Brown are getting some points. Second period, Eller ties it up. From P.O. Joseph, former Coyotes prospect. Then Juuso Valimaki, a solid pass and setup from Clayton Keller. His first goal of the season, finally getting back in the lineup. So from Keller and Michelli. Sidney Crosby decides we're going to tie it up before Kerfoot says, nah, we're good. 2 minutes left to go in the second period. His 7th from Zucker. And then you get one of the best plays I've ever seen in my life, Robin. One of the greatest on the power play. The Coyotes now, they have a record. So even if, theoretically, they move tomorrow, the Arizona Coyotes will forever be in the record books. That is because Lawson Krause, with his 18th goal of the season, he scores it, except for he really didn't. The assist should go to Letang and Malkin because it's an empty net goal. It's an own goal, and it's on the power play, while the Coyotes did not record a single shot. That is the first time a team has scored a power play goal without recording a shot. Greatest moment of my life. That 7 minutes and 4 seconds. Bukes at his 10th from O'Brien and McBain. And your final is 5-2. Can we talk about the own goal for another couple seconds?
Yeah, let's because I feel like it's become a good joke in the last bit among all of hockey Twitter, but to see how visibly not just upset but so freaking furious Penguins fans are right now because of that, I'm like, again, I don't blame their anger. That's kind of like, how do you make a mistake like that?
I know this tweet I'm gonna reference isn't funny, but I laughed because it made someone that mad. They're like, oh, it's time to just end one of the Coyotes seasons, put Keller or Cooley through the boards. And I saw that and just started laughing. People were so mad.
I do want to say this, by the way. I guess you mentioned that if you are the kind of fan that actively roots for another team's player injury, you need to get yourself checked out because these guys are human. But why would you want to? Why would you want that's just not cool. To actively root for someone's season to end to injury.
You are 100% correct. That's why I prefaced it with it's not funny. It just made me laugh because I can just imagine.
It's a laugh at the sense of why would someone be that dumb?
Yes. That is the best way to say it. Why would someone be that dumb? Anyway, let me try to get us back on track for the first segment. so, so they win this game 5-2. Connor Ingram, a 926 save percentage in this game. Solid night for him. I know he's had a good handful of starts in a row. Do you think coming up, what was it, another 3 games on the road? They'll probably get one of the games, or you think Ingram's going to play all 3?
And it's an interesting question. I do think I think you got to give it to Vejmelka for at least one of those games.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly for the purpose of, as we were talking about many times over the course of the season, you got to make sure Vejmelka can either maintain or increase his trade value.
That, and then also the obligatory, you got to make sure Connor Ingram gets a couple nights off. Like,
no, that too, obviously. That's the more important. Like, see, my brain thinks we're still a rebuilding team focused on building for the future.
You're thinking assets right now. You're thinking, all right, what can I get out of this guy?
I am thinking smart right here. I am thinking of the way where I'm thinking, because, yeah, sure, the Coyotes are ahead of schedule on their rebuild, but they still got ways to go, and I'm still like looking ahead. All right, yeah, sure, that those crappy seasons, they're behind us, but we still got work to do, and I'm looking ahead.
Speaking of looking ahead, Robin, I know you have one of our points is I'm staying above 500. Here's just a little bit of context. 45 games into the season, 23-19-3. 49 points, just shy of 50 points, or above a point per game right now, which is good. And a fun little factoid, they are 5 wins shy of their win total from last season. They could technically tie it at 50 games. Technically. That means they have to win the next 5, but they could do it, and they could do it before they reach 20 regulation losses. Do not lie to me, did you have that on your bingo card?
No.
Did you have that?
Absolutely not. I mean, here's the thing, right? You and I were talking about the Coyotes flirting with a playoff spot, kind of being on like that bubble. They might hold on to a playoff spot for a couple of weeks kind of situation. Then they'll fall out and they'll kind of, fall back down to reality to a mediocre team. This team has surprised us in this. They continue to be above that level. And it's like, you think it's like, when are they going to drop? At what point is it going to drop? Like, we're expecting it, but it's not happening. So, I mean, I don't think any of us could have said we saw that coming. If you said you like, and I will be honest, and I'll say this, I'll say in this way, that if you are someone that said that you did expect this to happen, you are lying. Unless you're, because like, unless you're, let's say, you're one of those super fans who are just like, oh yeah, they're going to win every game. But those are outliers, because they say whatever comes out of their behind.
You know what? I think that's a good setup for a word from today's sponsor, because we have more to talk about with the Coyotes staying above 500. A couple more little factoids I want to throw into this episode, Robin. But first, we got to get that out of the way. So let's get to a word.
And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. I know a lot of you guys might frustrated with purchasing tickets, and you shouldn't have to get all that frustrated. Whether it be looking for last-minute deals or getting surprised by these like all of a sudden fees that come up, getting a terrible seat, all those things can be fixed just with one simple app, and that's Game Time. You can browse tickets, last-minute tickets. In fact, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for all kinds of events and areas. So not just sports games, but concerts, comedy shows, you name it. And you can see the views from all seats in the venue. They got the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and you can do a lot of different things. They got zone deals, and zone deals, flash deals, all sorts of things like that. it really is my preferred app for finding tickets. And just I want you guys to check it out yourself. Take a guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download Game Time app. Create an account. Use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Robin, we have a couple notes to talk about. The Coyotes. I do believe Nashville was beat in regulation yesterday. I was watching a bit of that game against Florida.
Yep.
The Coyotes, 2 less games played, are just 2 points behind Nashville. 49 points. LA, I think they won their game last night in overtime with the Sharks. So they're 53 points. The Coyotes are 2 points ahead, being on that bubble of the playoffs, while being 2 points behind that final wild card spot. And we are almost at the All-Star break. Can I just once again reiterate how impressive that is? Like, I mean it every single time I get frustrated, all right, because I can see what this team can be, and I know I just want to kind of fast forward a couple of years until we're at that point, all right? And I will always bring up the fact that they are very mediocre in so many aspects, frustratingly so, all right? But this is
a young
still
team.
So impressive. Yeah, they have like 9 more wins this year versus last year at the same point. This is a night and day difference, Robin. Like, if I was on this show last year, I'd have been talking about jumping off the bridge. I'd have been like, I ain't coming into work. This team sucks.
No, you're absolutely right. At around this time last year, Carl and I were still like at that point. I think we had given up on the tank hard for Bedard sweepstakes, but we were like, oh, we can still fight for Fantilli. We can still see if we can get a guy like Adam Fantilli. We're not going to worry. We're still in the tanking season, and then and now this year we're like, I don't even think that that like anyone on the Yotes like Yotes fan base has ever even talked about the idea of like Celebrini or I think Yzerman's kid or whoever else is in the top 5 of the draft, because like at this point they are a top, like I think they are a bubble playoff team, and it's amazing the fact that they've gotten that, and we're seeing just a difference between one a year versus another. And I think a lot of that you can really credit to the work that Bill Armstrong has done over this previous offseason, especially, but even more so is just seeing the talent that some people might have overlooked in the draft or other pieces that he was just being able to pick up and surprise. And of course, the big one, of course, was being able to sign Logan Cooley to an entry-level deal this last offseason. So, like, he really props to Bill Armstrong for really almost pressing fast forward without people really even thinking about it in last offseason. Last offseason, again, we were still like, yes, it's going to be a mediocre team. But
last year would have been like, we would love a mediocre team.
I mean, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
And despite the occasional disagreements and criticisms I have with Coach Bear, I've still maintained consistently the dude is great at his job, and with how consistently this team has been ahead of schedule. The fact that it's again almost February and we're still talking about them being in the playoff bubble is ridiculous. It is a ridiculous accomplishment that this entire organization, the coaching, the general managing has managed, and there's not really a good transition here. So I'm going to go from all of the good things we're just talking about to now we have some injury stuff, to now we have some negativity. And let's jump into it. Nick Schmaltz has been having a phenomenal season. 2 years left on that contract, 27 years of age. My opinion has mildly changed on the trade Nick Schmaltz bandwagon. I think it has, especially since the team's further along.
He's more cemented himself as a true core member of the team.
And it's not even just that. It's also the fact that the team has cemented themselves as being farther along. So it's no longer 5 years out or 4 years out, whatever. It's like, I think we're a lot closer. The age makes a lot more sense. Like, I don't think
2 to 3
outside of the core anymore. But he's missed the last couple of games. There has been no official word when he's going to be back. And it went from He was injured in the Calgary game. He missed the Vancouver game. They come back home against Nashville, and then after the Nashville game, he was immediately ruled out of the game last night against Pittsburgh. And I brought it up on Twitter. It's weird that he went from a game time decision against Nashville to completely being, or against Vancouver, to being completely like, taken out of a game 2 days in advance.
Yep.
Hopefully, it's just caution. Hopefully, it's an abundance of caution. He'll miss maybe a week and a half. Take your time with it.
I think they were in no rush right now, especially since like they're like the call-ups that they've had, have been filling in nicely for injured players so far. Like what is freaking Dylan Guenther's stat lines since getting called up?
Dylan Guenther had 3 points in 2 games and then went quiet since then, which I'm sad because that means he's going to get sent back down. That's like, as soon as guys get healthy, he's going back down. But 4 points in 8 games, half a point per game player, that is not bad.
Yeah.
That is not bad at all. And then, sorry.
No, yeah. I mean, even despite that, I think maybe he's had like a better, like a better look, like even just like on ice appearance rather than, point production. Obviously, point production is what matters the most, especially for someone like Guenther, who's been known, who is supposed to be a goal scorer. But other than that, other players are trying to fill in as much as they can. I feel like they're doing it fine.
Yeah. And now let's talk about the defense, Robin. Victor Soderstrom gets the call up. I made the joke because yesterday I'm like, it'd make a lot of sense for Soderstrom to get a stint. You want to see where the kid's at, watch him call up Cook again. They called up Soderstrom. He'll probably end up getting a game. Matt Dumba, he left last night or the night before because he left the game with an injury, and then they call up a defenseman, meaning he's probably going to miss at least a little bit of time. Not on IR or anything, but probably like a couple games, maybe a week.
I mean, you got both Dumba and Stetcher out. It's gonna.
Stetcher's 4 to 6 weeks. I didn't see him play. I didn't know what they were referring to. Did you see how he got hurt?
I didn't see the exact injury, no. But yeah, 4 to 6 weeks. So he's on the IR, and it's
that's a blow.
So it is a huge blow. And I think it puts the Coyotes up to a test. Like with all the injuries, it puts them up to a test because their next games are not going to be easy. Because they've got the Panthers tomorrow, which of course we'll talk about on the next episode. And then they got the Lightning, the Hurricanes, the Golden Knights in the next 3 games. But after that, the Predators, the Flyers. After that, and then it goes Wild, Hurricanes, Avalanche. It's this half of the season looks tough,
especially when you start getting injuries, because we already saw it where they weathered the storm for a while and then it kind of started going off the rails a little bit, and the injuries I think probably has attributed more so to the mediocre record, meaning they'd probably be a little bit better without the injuries. Because think about it, they're still missing Barrett Hayton and Travis Boyd. Hayton was recently, Craig Morgan reported he's recently skating, I think last week, so maybe he's closer. But Troy Stetcher, now he's out 4 to 6 weeks. And for context, here are all the active, important players that are on IR. Hayton, Boyd, Stetcher. If you want to consider Coley Achonic from a Tucson perspective as well as a call-up perspective, he's also important as well. And you also have a couple of guys that are considered day-to-day, including guys like Nick Schmaltz and Matt Dumba. They are hitting a second injury wave. And while hopefully most of these are minor, it's going to make or break the season. And I don't want to say that in like the context of, they're going to suck. But like, it is going to make or break the season, whether or not you end up fully buying in as a seller or like maybe like a retainer. I wouldn't consider them buyers this deadline, unless you want to for like a cautious buyer, I guess.
I think so. I think there's like, to me, I think when it comes to the NHL trade deadline, it's no longer black and white buyers versus sellers. You have like hard sellers, like soft sellers. You have staying put. Then you got like soft buyers and hard buyers. I feel like they might be like on like the either from like that staying put toward leaning towards soft buy, because I feel like they're starting to get comfortable enough that they realize that they can add some pieces to make them feel a little bit more complete. But and I think, and it goes in the sense where, hard buyers are getting rentals, pieces that they only really need for the rest of the season, or maybe like once the season past that. The Coyotes are looking long term. They're looking, all right, what kind of players can we acquire for the longer term? What kind of assets can we get that can help finish this rebuild in the next 2-3 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting, and like I only mean to put this into perspective. I know we gotta get to a break, but like I only mean to try to put this into perspective because this stretch, like I know we're all excited and it's really cool to see what they're doing right now. It could go one of two ways, right? Like almost immediately, especially if we don't get some of these guys back. And while Soderstrom, I got to watch him the other week in Tucson, is looking a lot better. AHL talent versus NHL talent is going to be a conversation, and it's just going to have to wait and see, but it's going to be an anxious wait and see for me.
It will indeed. Well, we got more to get to on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. We're gonna talk about what's going on at the arena situation. Some people are probably wondering at this point. We'll get to that right after this.
And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. It's almost the halfway point of the season. Actually, it is a halfway point of the season, Coyotes fans. And well, we're all surprised, aren't we? Pleasantly surprised. I'm actually pleasantly surprised what's going on. Regardless of where we are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy hockey app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. I freeze a lot. My apologies, but I can't do the ad libs. Can I just skip that part and you just edit this part out? Appreciate you. All you have to do is pick whether studs like, I don't know, Clayton Keller is going to score a goal. Logan Cooley finally gets a little streak going. Maybe Dylan Gunther goes bar down. I don't know whether they record more or less in their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Coyotes fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to $100 match your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. You love when I struggle.
A little bit.
Oh man, I'm gonna get some producer notes after that one. Anyway, we got some arena stuff. You know what? Maybe this will counteract it because our producers love when we talk about the arena. They love it. Locked On Arena.
We are apparently Locked On Arena News because that's apparently what all our producers want to hear, or I should say bosses, because I'm technically the producer, but still.
I'm just here looking at traffic and waving. Hello, I'm along for the ride.
But anyways, I felt like we had to do an episode at this point because it's been about a month since we last spoke about it, right? The last time we spoke was around our end of year review. We're like, hey, yeah, the New Year's, we're told it's around the New Year, early New Year, even by the end of the last calendar year. So we were thinking around there. That's what we were told, right? Multiple times.
Frustratingly,
but then they also going into the season, they said, "Oh yeah, soft deadline is the All-Star break." So we blew past that, that first, we'll hear by New Year's situation. That quote soft deadline now, Matthew, is approaching. And then I saw, of course, on Twitter on another podcast, Gary Bettman said, it should be resolved in the coming months. Like, what is it?
So let me give my perspective and opinion because I was actually talking about it recently on Twitter. So it's a phenomenal time to talk about this. So here is my frustration. For a little bit of context, I got a little bit of info that was like this date. Then I got another piece of info. It said it's not that date, and that's kind of the official point when I'm like I'm no longer going to speculate on the date because to me it's way too much he said she said type situation. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to go off official statements. And here is where I started to get angry, and I still am. And I'm so glad you brought up that podcast clip because that actually like is what they should be saying. So the 30 to 45 day window they have blown by. All right. Technically, I've already explained it on my own channel. Technically, Gutierrez did not lie because it had to become public. And through leaks, it all became public that they're focusing on North Phoenix. So that does satisfy that. Frustratingly. But then on 3 separate occasions, especially in late December, one was the first or second intermission for the San Jose game, another was a statement they put out, and then I'm trying to remember the other, like there's one other time late in that month where he said, Gutierrez himself, he did not need to say this. He specifically said late this year, and I think the last of those was like just before Christmas. So he knew 100% it was not going to be late last year. He should have just said, I'll get into that. But he says late this year, early next year. We are now 23 days as of recording, 23 days into the new year, and nothing. And what Bettman said, I love what he said because he said they're focusing on one piece of land, and essentially they'll have an update when they have an update. Now, whenever Gutierrez was saying, hey, we're down to the last couple and we're trying to find that last site, and our next announcement is going to, it was the Burns and Gambo show. Oh my God, I just remember that. That was the third occasion. That's when like my blood boiled. And anyway, going back to the, I have so bad ADHD, but Bettman's like, yeah, essentially, we'll have the update. And Gutierrez is like, whenever you hear from us, it'll be the site. I'm like, okay, that's all I need. That is all I need. You are saying that you're down to the last couple and you're trying to focus on one. I will wait patiently. It wasn't until Javier himself on 3 separate occasions to end last year, to end the month, said by the end of this year, early next year. And that's what boiled my blood because all he had to say was what he already said. Hey, essentially just confirm what Bettman said. Just we are focusing on one site and we'll have an update when we're ready. And that's it. My anger comes because he kept, and this is an objective fact, stringing everyone along because the fake deadlines, it's what's boiling my blood. It's the fake, this and that. No, just say we're focusing on one. We will get back to you when we get back to you because the league deadline is end of season. That is the hard deadline.
That's the hard deadline. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So
the soft deadline is
January annoys me. Sorry. Yeah. I apologize. I telling me January or even All-Star break boils my blood because I know they're not going to hit it because they kept saying December over and over.
Because here's the issue at hand when it comes to that soft deadline being the All-Star break. Mm-hmm. At this point, I think it's no secret. We haven't said it officially on this show, but I might as well say it now. The piece of land that they're targeting in North Phoenix is state trust land. If you want to know the process, if you don't know the process yet, in order to purchase state trust land, it absolutely must go to a public auction first. And it hasn't even happened yet. So that needs to happen. And it needs to be completely locked down. And yes, sure, someone can technically swoop in and buy that land too. But honestly, I think
Morello's be able to outbid Morello.
No,
if he wants that land, he should.
Morello, freaking billionaire who owns 2 casinos in Nevada. If he loses a bid to purchase an empty piece of state land in Arizona, I will go ballistic.
I'll scream. I will scream.
But anyways, that has to be done, and that takes time. So don't just lie to us saying it's going to happen and within an X amount of time. Just tell us. Just be like, right, we'll have an update when it's coming. If you tell us something's happening, I will on that day or like around that, maybe even plus or minus, 2-3 days, be on my computer pressing the refresh button, waiting until I hear someone or get a potential leak to see if I can get something. And if I don't get anything, I'll be upset.
It's all about expectations. And I understand sometimes we fly off the handles. All right. Trust me, I'm not perfect. All right. Something gets under your skin, you fly off the handle. Sometimes people get anxious. And especially since December, my mindset has been very consistent on I'm just annoyed. And look, before that, there have been a couple times where I'd like a couple additional updates. And whenever they gave us, hey, we're working on this, that was enough for me. Genuinely, it was enough for me when you just say, hey, we're down to a couple sites we're looking at. We'll have another update later, a month or 2 months later. Hey, we're focusing on one site. That's all I want. That's all I need. I want the deal done sooner rather than later. But part of the reason, probably the biggest part of the reason why I want that deal done a lot sooner is because the expectation that was sold to me multiple times by Javier himself is essentially late December, early January. That passed, that beyond passed, and that's why I'm frustrated. It has nothing to do with I think they're like I can tell you right now from the multiple different sources I've talked to, grain of salt this all you want. Even if the Board of Governors forced a sale, they are looking at a local buyer first. Ishbia comes to mind. I don't know about anybody else, but Ishbia definitely would get a phone call before they make the Atlanta or Salt Lake, whoever else. Ishbia would get a phone call first.
I have reason to believe it would be like Salt Lake City would probably be the first call they'd make if they can't get a local buyer. But that's yeah, I mean it's the only one because you want to keep they want to keep it relatively west central, know, because then you have to do a whole realignment. You don't want to deal with you don't have to deal with that.
No. Wait for the expansion.
Exactly, but no, I feel like. Look, even if you said first quarter, because that is a wide range of, that's January up until April.
March 31st, technically.
Right.
So they did say Q1. So stop there. Just say Q1 will have
enough. Just say Q1. Don't tell us, by the new year. Or don't tell us by All-Star break. Or don't tell us anything specific. Q1 is very broad. So, if you say Q1 and if you get the news March 31st, I'll be happy because that's you technically hit your mark on Q1.
But if you tell me December and it's February, I'm going to be annoyed.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I apologize. I keep checking in. It's just I am actually a little frustrated right now because that is the entire point I've been trying to sell is just. You guys, you right there, you keep telling me a timeline and then not hitting it. Just if you never told me the timeline, I would not be sold on the timeline and I wouldn't be frustrated. Continue, please.
No. And it's gotten even to the point in which, sources who who I trust don't even they're throwing their hands up I don't know what to tell you. I
have a joke I want to make, but I really can't. So you have to cut over for me right now. I have to bite my tongue.
I do want to hear it, but tell me.
I'll tell you after the show. For everyone else, it has to. Here, come here, buddy boy. It has to do with the rootinest, tootinest, shootinest, gosh darn puppy in the wild wild west. Take it away, Robin. I'm gonna give a Rooter Tooter over here some attention.
All right, well that's gonna be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, comment, and subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube and ad-free on Amazon Music. And don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on X at LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robin_Leonio. Matthew Jacobson is at the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us, ask a question you might have. We might interact right back or in a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.